Welcome to the deep dive. We're diving straight in today because we have some source material making, well, truly startling claims. Claims linking recent big media shifts, Don Lemon, Tucker Carlson, leaving their networks to linguistic and structural changes in German media almost 100 years ago.
It is a bold contention, yeah. The sources are basically saying these modern events aren't just random. They echo what they call a 1928 kind of moment.
A 1928 moment.
Right. That's when, according to this thesis, shifts in German media language and structure really set the stage for the years between 28 and the Nazi takeover in 33.
Okay, and the sources connect these patterns, this media manipulation, back to a group they keep calling the Khazarian Mafia. We absolutely need to define that term up front. What do the sources mean by that? Who are they in this context?
Yeah, that's crucial because it drives the whole alleged motive. The sources define this Khazarian Mafia, not like, a standard crime group. It's presented as a specific transnational elite, operating outside national identities, focused on wealth, power, and, critically, the sources claim they hide within the Jewish population for cover.
Hiding within. Okay, and their methods.
Psychological operations, advanced ones. They link it to places like the Tavistock Institute, using linguistic shifts, propaganda basically, to control political outcomes.
So the idea is these big media shakeups we see, they're not accidents, they're managed psyops, and the blueprint is supposedly 1928 Germany. To get that, we need to understand Germany back then. Chaos, right?
Exactly. Think post-1923 Weimar hyperinflation. People hear hyperinflation and think money, but the sources stress the social collapse.
Right.
Justice systems crumbling, banks broken, government barely functioning. When those pillars go, people become, well, psychologically vulnerable, prime targets for media manipulation. That's key to the analysis here.
And back then, the main info source. Daily, weekly newspapers. So the analogy is today's big networks, Fox, CNN, whatever, they're like the dominant papers of the late 20s.
Pretty much. And if you look at those German papers, the sources sort of break them down. You had explicitly Jewish papers, Der Morgen in the morning, mainly for the Jewish community.
Okay.
And then you had the huge general circulation papers, the ones everyone read.
And this is where it gets complicated, right? Because these big general papers, the national networks of their day, were often owned by powerful Jewish families, even if they weren't labeled Jewish papers. Like the Berliner Zeitung, started way back in 1877.
Precisely. And the families behind them are central to this story. You've got the Olstein family owned the Berliner Zeitung, huge publishing empire. The sources compare them to, say, a Fox News Today, a massive media conglomerate.
Okay. Olstein's like Fox. Who else?
Then the Moss family. They own the Berliner Tageblatt, very progressive, often called Germany's New York Times.
Got it. So powerful Jewish families running the main media outlets. Now, this 1928 shift you mentioned, what exactly started changing the language in the Berliner Zeitung, for instance?
Well, the sources contend that around 1928, the language began to pivot. Subtly at first, maybe, but dramatically. It wasn't immediately pro-Nazi, not outright, but a shift in framing. These papers, even the Jewish-owned general ones, allegedly started using more generalized derogatory framing when talking about the Jewish community in economic or political news.
So moving from critiquing specific policies to critiquing identity.
That's the idea, kind of creating linguistic space for the rhetoric that followed, softening the ground, you could say.
And this move by papers owned by Jewish families was seen as a betrayal, a prelude to.
Exactly. A prelude culminating in 1933 when the actual Jewish papers, like Der Morgen, were just banned outright.
And Der Morgen wasn't just some small community paper, was it?
Not at all. It had real political clout, wide readership even outside the Jewish community. Attracted major thinkers. People like Walter Benjamin wrote for them.
Walter Benjamin.
Yeah.
The sources make a really chilling claim about him, don't they? About his insights into language and power.
They do. They suggest his understanding of how language works on the psyche was later studied, weaponized, inculcated into propaganda, as they put it, by the very forces looking to manipulate people.
Wow. Okay, this leads us to maybe the most difficult, the most paradoxical claim in all this source material.
The funding.
The idea that these powerful Jewish media dynasties were also funding the anti-Jewish propaganda. We have to talk about Der Stürmer.
Yes, Der Stürmer, the Stormer. Started in 1923 by Julius Streicher, intensely, virulently anti-Jewish.
And Streicher himself, the sources describe him as Well, not rich, an unknown from Bavaria, from Fleinhausen, a place they link to flax and cereal money, which they then tie to Khazarian money.
Right. So Stryker has no obvious means, but suddenly in 1923, he's, quote, unexpectedly gifted with all this money to launch this hate-filled paper in Frankfurt, a major publishing hub.
Okay, so where did the money really come from, according to these sources?
And here's the bombshell. The sources argue if you trace the funding for Stryker, it leads back to the Moss family.
The Moss family, owners of the Progressive Tageblatt.
Routed apparently through the Olstein family, so yes. The owners of Germany's equivalent to the New York Times and a Fox News-like conglomerate.
Allegedly funding the most vicious anti-Jewish paper in the country. Hold on. That seems almost unbelievable. Are the sources saying they knew that Jewish owners knowingly bankrolled a paper attacking their own people? What's the proposed motive there?
That is the absolute core question the sources grapple with, and it loops back to their definition of the Khazarian Mafia as separate.
Okay.
The contention isn't that it was community suicide. It was allegedly self-preservation for that specific elite group. By funding the extreme opposition, or shifting language in their own papers, they were supposedly creating a controlled narrative.
Controlled? How?
The sources suggest it was a strategy to devote attention, maybe ensure they were protected, or had an exit strategy while stirring up a crisis for the general Jewish population. A way to escape consequences, they claim.
That is a deeply shocking claim. And we have to stress, again, this is the source's contention we're reporting here. And they also say this wasn't even a secret, that other writers knew.
Apparently not entirely. The sources name writers for Der Morgen, Ernest Toller, Kurt Chalowski, who supposedly wrote opinion pieces about this bizarre financial connection at the time.
And speaking out, that didn't end well for them, did it?
No. Knowing or opposing the narrative came at a terrible cost. The sources talk about the bad end for those key Der Morgen writers, Benjamin, Toller, Joseph Roth, Chalowski, all forced to emigrate.
The details are just awful. One writer, you mentioned, imprisoned in a concentration camp for months.
3 or 4 months, yeah. Then just released and told, get out of the country. Finality.
And another trying to escape to America, turned back at New York.
Turned back in New York, yes.
Yes.
Ended up in Spain, died in a Spanish fascist concentration camp. The message the sources draw is stark. Oppose the narrative shift directly, and you faced annihilation.
Okay, let's bring this back to now. The source argues the current media scene consolidation, these high-profile firings like Lemon, Carlson, mirrors that 1928 to 33 period. What's the modern version of the Olstein Empire allegedly shifting its language?
Well, the sources see these firings as signals that the big media conglomerates, today's Olsteins and Mosses, if you will, are aligning their narratives, probably under pressure, just like they allegedly did in 1928.
So Fox firing Carlson is seen as
a direct parallel, according to the sources, to the Berliner Zeitung, cooperating with the language shift back then. They frame it as the owners protecting themselves, ensuring they stay in the game, possibly by, quote, caving to the U.S. government.
And the historical connection gets even more specific in the source material, right? They mention alleged family ties.
Yes, they cite alleged genealogical links, specifically between the Olstein publishing family and figures involved in modern global structures. Klaus Schwab's father is mentioned, claimed to be related to the Olsteins and involved in historical propaganda efforts. It's presented as evidence of continuity.
That's a huge, complex assertion layered in there.
It's all part of their overarching thesis of continuity, of centralized control, and the claim's motivation now, same as 1928, they argue. The Khazarian Mafia, perceiving consequences coming their way, are trying to create agitation against Jews.
Why? As a diversion?
As a calculated strategy, the sources posit, to aid their own escape, manufacture a crisis for the broader group to ensure their own safety. That's the grim logic presented.
So wrapping this deep dive up, we've explored this really shocking historical paradox. Jewish media dynasties in 1930s Germany allegedly funding the anti-Jewish press.
Right, and the argument that very similar rapid linguistic shifts signaled by major media firings and consolidation are happening now, repeating that pattern of general circulation outlets, shifting language to enable hostile rhetoric.
The analysis concludes this shift is already happening, elevating intensity and shifting over emotions around Jewish-associated language.
I mean, what they see is a dangerous way, yes.
So, given the source's core idea that this group sees itself as separate, allegedly using the wider Jewish community as cover, the final provocative thought they leave you with is this. Start paying very close attention to the specific language being used in major media outlets right now. Watch how language is shifting over emotions, particularly regarding anything related to Jewish-associated linguistics. See if, as the sources claim happened in 1928, a linguistic foundation for agitation is being laid again. It's a challenging lens, certainly, but according to this material, that's where you might see the signs.